Kessler and the staff of the Texas Association of Realtors, and we want to thank you for joining the webinar this morning, facilitated by zipLogix. You know, this is our second webinar since the introduction of the new transaction management platform called zipTMS, and we appreciate your involvement this morning. I think we have over 1,000 Texas Realtors signed up for today, and a few weeks ago we had over 1,000 sign up for the first seminar. So thank you for your interest in this and the training, and Michael Sitko will be our facilitator from zipLogix today. But we appreciate your interest in learning more about zipForms Plus, that platform, as well as the integration and the seamless integration of what is called zipTMS as part of this transaction management platform rollout with zipForms Plus. As you know, on January 1st, the National Association of Realtors is now a new partner in providing zipForms Plus as an all-new member benefit. And that member benefit is now across the country. So this has been extremely expanded as far as access to zipForms across the United States for all realtors. But Texas Realtors, we want to just make sure that those on the line today as part of this webinar, that you realize that there is not any change in the long-term partnership that we've had with zipLogix. So we will continue to be the provider of the Texas forms that we have on the zipLogix platform for zipForms Plus. Nothing has changed in what we're offering as part of that product line with you all as Texas Realtors. So today's facilitator is Michael Sitko, and he's going to walk through the integration of that transaction management platform into zipForms Plus. And I think you're going to see a great service, the enhancement of zipForms Plus with that seamless introduction and integration of a transaction management platform into the current service of what you have with zipForms Plus. Now, at the end of today's webinar, you're going to have an opportunity. There will be a pop-up at the end of today's webinar to answer some questions, a survey about what you like or dislike about this functionality and this platform. We value your input. We have been a long-term partner with zipLogix, and we want to continue to provide the service that you as a Texas Realtor expect and what you want relationship that we have with zipForms and with zipLogix. So at the end of the webinar, please stay on for just a few minutes. There'll be a very, very short survey that we would like you to complete, and there'll just be a pop-up message at the very end. So please help us with this as we grow and we expand our program and our services that we offer as Texas Realtors through the zipLogix contract that we have. So Michael, thank you for facilitating this today. We look forward to getting feedback on this, and enjoy the webinar.
Thank you very much, Travis, and thank you everyone for, again, taking your time to join us today. We are very excited with all the interest that we have out in Texas in regarding zipForms Plus. zipTMS is our seamless integrated transaction management. So we are very excited to go ahead and walk you through this again today. And do keep in mind, as you know, Travis was explaining, that this is a seamless integrated product. So it's built right into zipForms Plus. So as we run through this, you're going to see some features that you're probably very familiar with. But again, it's about painting the picture of how this seamless transaction management, being the digital transaction, can assist you in your day-to-day work life. So we're going to run through zipForms Plus, show you all the benefits and features, and by the end of this webinar, I hope that you get a better understanding of how zipForms Plus can make your job and workflow very seamless. So looking at here, what we're currently on is the TIR website, the Texas Association of Realtors website. This is where you typically go to log in. You plug in your email and a password, and you're logging into zipForms Plus. Upon logging in, you are brought to your transaction page. This is where all of your transactions are going to reside. Anything you're currently working on or worked on in the past, you will be able to find on this screen. And currently, we're looking at this screen in a tile view. If we want to switch this to a list view very easily, all we have to do is click on the list icon, and then we'll switch our view to a list view. while you're in the list view, you will get some additional information of when it was modified, when it was created, and when it expires. Now, the expiration date is regarding how long we're going to keep that transaction within zipForm itself. So to meet the DRE regulation for your requirements. So we will have an expiration date shown to you so you can be aware. If you want to switch back to the tile view, all you have to do is click on the icon again, and that will switch it back and forth. It really is a personal preference which is going to work best for you. You have the option to sort these transactions out, date modified and the transaction name. You can organize them based upon some personal preferences there. You can actually take it one step further and look for a transaction based upon a status. Maybe they're inactive or if they're a closed transaction. You can filter by the transaction type, listing, purchase, lease. And then you have the property type as well, which allows you to search for transactions based upon their type. But then ultimately we have a search functionality. And the search function is an instant search function. So as I type, if I type in 89 and then 895, you're noticing the transaction data is brought up to me. So that data will come up as I type it. And if this is the transaction that I'm looking for, great. There is a menu drop down that allows me to either click on the corner of the tile, or if it's in the list view, it will be all the way to the right-hand side. Either way, you're going to get transaction details letting you know when it was modified, created, and again the expiration date, and then there's some menu options. Giving you the ability to open the transaction. You can also view, edit the details here as well, so if you need to make a listing to a purchase, you can go that way. Here's where you can change your status from active, inactive, and closed. And the nice thing about the changing of a status is it helps keep your transaction page clean and organized. So that way, when you come in, you're not looking at an entire list of just active transactions or inactives and closed. You really want to be able to look at just an organized view of active. So that way, if you start organizing your transaction, you will be able to search for them and be able to look for your closed or your inactive so you can follow up or concentrate on just the active transactions. Going back to that menu drop-down, there's also the capability to copy a transaction. And I like to talk about this feature because if you're working with some buyers and they happen to fall through on this 895 Wyoming Avenue, you can change the status of this transaction to inactive and then make a copy of it. So that way, you've kept the original with the original buyers that fell through, but now you've gone ahead and made a copy of the transaction and go in and make your minor changes with the new set of buyers. So this is a really quick way to get a transaction started without having to start from scratch if you happen to work on the same transaction with a new set of buyers. You will see that we have a toolbar that will come with you as you navigate throughout the application. Okay? So the first icon we talk about here is our forms icon. This allows you to quickly get in and grab a form and fill it out. This is not requiring you to give a name to a transaction. It's just simply allowing you to quickly get in and grab a form. We are going to be creating a new transaction here in a few. We will definitely be walking you through the entire process of creating a new transaction and putting it all together. We have the import and export functionality. These are great tools because, we are going to hold your transactions, but you always have the ability to export these transactions out. So if we go ahead and bring up my transaction list again, if I click on export, I can select them all. Now, it doesn't remove these transactions out of the application. What it will do is it will let you choose where you want to put a copy of this transaction. And then it will leave the other copy back in zipForm. And if you ever need to bring those transactions back in, you do have the import functionality as well. So that way you can import them in, and the transaction will actually become a fully workable transaction again. Okay, so as it leaves, it will come back in the same exact way as it left. Clauses and Lookup Manager, we will talk about a little bit more when we get into the creation of a transaction. But the clause manager is where you can manage like the legal verbiage you want to maybe have on some addendums. So if you go ahead and plug in clauses, maybe like an FHA clause or a home inspection clause, you can put those into zipForm and then apply them to an addendum or on a contract, and we'll show you how to apply a clause. But the clause manager is where you're going to manage them and keep the data that you want available to you on your forms through here. So the clause manager is where you can keep it up to date. And the last tool we'll talk about on this screen here is our mortgage calculator. This allows us to go ahead and plug in a loan amount. Maybe it's $275,000. The interest rate 4%, and the loan term maybe 30 years or 360 months. Once you plug in some data, you will be able to go ahead and click on Calculate, and it's going to give you a general idea of what you're going to be paying out for principal and interest. Maybe the property taxes are $3,500 for the year. Go ahead and plug it in as well. Again, giving you just a more general sense on how much this property may cost your client. From there, what we have is the amortization table, which would allow you to display it and then give them the whole idea of what they're paying out for principal and interest for the next 30 years. You can print this off and give it to them, or if you go back, there's the ability to display it as a CSV file, and then you would be able to email that report to them as well. So that way they have their own amortization schedule to see, again, what they're paying out for the next 30 years. So quick, easy tool to get in there and just give some general ideas to your client. Before we get into creating a new transaction, we have to take a second here to talk about templates. Okay, and a template is a focal point in regards to transaction management, because a template is your package of forms, your listing packets, residential sale packets, probably a lot of items that you're using today. And with the new transaction management, a template and the zipTMS go together. And when you're creating a new template, you're going to see some different changes here. So you have the ability to go ahead and create a purchase, residential, and then down here below, there's an auto-apply functionality. Okay, so you can actually say we're going to automatically apply this template to all new purchase residential transactions. So anytime that you create a new transaction with this selection, a template will automatically apply. If I change it to lease commercial, you'll notice that that data will change, and this template will be applied to all lease commercial transactions. So you can create multiple templates that would be applying to different types of transactions. And then there's the capability of applying this template to all new transactions, no matter what the transaction type. So this would be a very generic setup. So this is going to give you something that you're going to apply automatically no matter what type of transaction that you're creating. So upon the creation of a template, those are some of the different changes in regards to this auto-apply functionality. If you go into a template that I've created in the past, you'll notice here that we have the auto templates letting me know that this template is automatically applying to certain types of transactions. And within your template, obviously, you're going to have your forms that you're going to utilize over and over again for a purchase transaction. So I have a Texas Association of Realtor cover sheet. And on that cover sheet, I can plug in repetitious data. So I can come in here and say, okay, I have my selling brokerage information in there. So that way, when I create my transaction, I don't have to worry about filling the data out over and over again. It will automatically be on the template for me. So this is, again, a time-saving tool that you can put together for yourself to help save yourself time when creating a purchase transaction, or even an example of a listing transaction. So from what you're going to put on the cover sheet, the data will flow wherever it's needed. But you can also even go on into the residential contract and plug in repetitious data there. Items that you typically fill out are all the same. Maybe there's broker fees, processing fees that you have to plug in on the contract, so that way you don't have to worry about filling it out later, or maybe and reducing your chances of not filling that out while it goes into the transaction state. Within your template as well, you can have outside documents, so like an office disclosure, like a PDF, a Word doc can also be applied to a transaction when you use the template. So the template's going to house this outside document, and then you'll be able to use it from anywhere when creating a transaction. You also have the ability to pull in a placeholder. This is more in regards to a zipTMS functionality where it allows you to pull in placeholders for documents that you're going to want to have in the transaction, but you just don't have them yet. Okay, so it's really saying we're going to hold a spot in here for this signed approval letter, so when we need it, we can fulfill it. And we can set a due date for it. We can say we want this signed approval letter due 1 day, 2 days before or after any one of the dates. So the listing date, the closing date, whatever relative date you want to set it for, you can set a due date for it. So we allow you to set up due dates or relative due dates based upon you want to remind yourself to have that document in the transaction. And the simple way of completing this task is go ahead and click on Add Document, and you'll notice there that you can browse for a file, which would be the PDF, or create document placeholder, which would be the outside document that you're holding a spot in this transaction for. Now with the template, you also have the ability to create a checklist. And this is another main feature of the zipTMS application, is to create your checklist and reminders for how you want the transaction to flow. And they're broken out different ways. So you have your checklist, there's the category underneath the checklist, and then you have your tasks. So examples I'm giving here is a to-do checklist. You know, the appraisal report, schedule the inspection, review disclosures. So those are all items that you can remind yourself to accomplish while you're working the transaction. And I'm setting due dates up for relative dates based upon when I fill dates out in the contract. So offer acceptance date. So I'm going to be reminded 7 days off after the offer acceptance date to look at the appraisal report or schedule the inspection. And then you can even set up a checklist for like closing. And we can say final signed documents. So I need to turn in or have the signed sales agreement, the signed buyer's agency agreement, signed addendums, all turned in 2 days before the closing date. So really what we're allowing you to do here with zipTMS within zipForm is to create a checklist to set up reminders so that you can keep yourself on track while working the transaction. Okay? So again, you can see how much a template has grown to be the focal point of zipForm Plus, because you can put so much together to save yourself so much time. We're going to go back to our transaction list now and get into creating a new transaction. So we're going to select New. So we're in this particular scenario today, we're going to have a purchase transaction today. So we're going to give our transaction a name. We're going to name it 586 Houston Drive. It's going to be a purchase transaction today, and it's going to be a residential property type. And before we click on Save, just pointing out here that we have a template automatically applying to my selection. So by me selecting Purchase Residential, I'm removing an additional step where I need to look for a template to apply. The system's automatically applying a Purchase Residential template for me. It's letting me know that this is my own template, and it does have a checklist. So it's going to say you are going to receive notifications on this transaction once you create it. So let's go ahead and click on Save. The system at this point in time will pull those forms over from what we had in the template. So you'll notice now that you've seen that we have our cover sheet there, and this cover sheet has the repetitious data already filled out for it on the template for me, so I don't have to worry about filling it out. I can also go back here and see that we have all my forms in there. There's the placeholder and the outside document that got brought in as well. So the next step, what we can do after we get the transaction created and the template has been applied, let's get some parties involved on this transaction and get buyers into the forms that where we need to put them. Now there's multiple ways to do this. You can go into the cover sheet if you want to. You can go up here to your buyer section, fill out buyer 1, you can fill out buyer 2, and plug in all their data. So, and then at that point in time, the data will flow where it's needed. You could also go to the residential contract if you want to and fill out the data there. There's no right or wrong on how you're going to do it, but what I'm going to show you is back on our transaction page where we're looking at all the documents here, you'll notice here that we have tabs, documents, parties, property, and so on. So the Parties tab is where you can actually come to and see the people involved in your transaction. So if we go ahead and click on New, I'm going to select Buyer 1, and I can fill all the data on my template here, on my Buyer 1 information screen. And we're typically asking for more information than what you would fill out on an agreement or a contract. So you can plug in all the data. And the nice thing about coming to your transaction party tab is that you have the ability to save them within the zipForm book, the zipForm address book that's built in. So that way you can save them as a contact, use them for follow-up later. If you ever write a new transaction with them, you'll have their data right in zipForm Plus. So this is a great way to start getting contacts in zipForm and use them, either for follow-up or maybe just one day to write another transaction. You can also even go ahead and import a contact as well at this point. So you can import them as a CSV or a vCard format. You can import those contacts in. Since I've already done the step of putting my contact in my address book, the way you utilize them is click on Add Contact. We're going to go right to our address book, and we're going to look for my buyer. And here we see Mr. Dave. He's my buyer today. We're going to click on Save, and it's going to pull Dave's information in for me. We'll click on Save again, and now Dave's involved in my transaction. Let's do it one more time. Let's go ahead and click on New. We're going to select a buyer 2 this time and do the same exact thing. Click on Add Contact. We're going to go to my address book and happen to find his wife. So there we have it. We have Dave and Karen involved in my transaction, so it's a very quick and easy way to pull contacts into your transaction without typing much of anything. Then what we can do is click on our Property tab. And now I could fill the information out here, start plugging in the MLS number, the street address, the city, and start filling in all the information that I have. We do have a feature called the MLS Connect. Okay, now do keep in mind that I'm going to be showing it using the Netris MLS. This may or may not be available in your area at this time, but it's something that we can work on to make available to you. So if you are using Netris, this is definitely an option that you can do, is pull the data from the MLS. So we're actually going to go ahead and plug in the multiple listing ID. So I have a number here, 1311433. And we're going to include the property photo, and we're going to reach out to the MLS and find this property. And we're going to import this right into our transaction. So now that data has been involved in my transaction, then let's go ahead and fill in some additional dates here, so just so we have some relative due dates being set. So we're going to plug in a listing date. Maybe that was back on the 1st. We're going to go ahead and include a closing date. We're moving very quickly here on this transaction. And the date of contract is today, and we're going to have an offer acceptance of today as well. Okay, so we go ahead and plug in these dates, and we're going to click on Save. Now when we go back to our Documents page, the first thing I'm going to show you is that back on our cover sheet, we're going to have our buyer's information right in the template, or in the transaction, excuse me. If we scroll down, you're going to see that we have the listing brokerage information, and then we have information about the property as well. So this data will flow wherever it's needed. So anywhere the data needs to go, you'll see the data start to populate throughout the transaction itself. You can also see here that we have due dates that are being established based upon those dates that we plugged in on our Property tab. So we have a due date now for the signed approval letter on 2/2, so it's a day past due, and it's letting me know that this is a red exclamation point, so this is something I need to get accomplished. On our checklist that was also applied when we created the transaction, you'll see that we have the checklist for all of our tasks. And now these tasks have due dates, so 2/10, 2/6. So it's going to notify you via email 2 days before the due date of your task. Okay, so you can see that we have all these due dates being set up. We also have information about the due date of when our signed documents need to be turned in. We have an urgent task center letting us know that, hey, this is something that you probably want to get completed because it is past due. So your task area is a great way to come into, and this is all part of zipTMS, to see exactly what you need to do to keep this transaction on track. You can look at it from a list view or go ahead and switch it to a calendar view and look at it from what you're working on for the entire month. Okay, so here we can see that this is what we're working on for the month of February. If I want to plug in a new task to my calendar, if I want to say we're going to schedule the inspection for the 7th, I can click on that day, and I can go ahead and say I'm going to meet the inspector. And I can go through here, maybe tie it to a particular checklist, maybe it's a to-do, and we can say it's required, we can put some comments in there, and then we can set due date. And we're going to leave it as a fixed date because we're meeting the inspector on the 7th. So we're going to go ahead and click on Save. It's going to go ahead and plug a hard date on my calendar for me, and it will remind me again 2 days before my due date to meet the inspector for 586 Houston Drive. Okay. You can also go ahead and email this calendar out if you want to. So this will allow you to email it to your client, the co-op agent, the title companies, the lenders. So that way they can all be on the same page in what we're working on for the entire month of February for this particular transaction. You'll notice here that it has contact information for the agent, and then information about the transaction itself. And you can either email this off, you can print this off, and send it to whoever you want. And I'm sure one of the questions you're probably going to be asking is, are we going to be linking this up with external calendars? And the answer is yes. This is something that we are currently working on and should have released here within the first quarter. So we are going to link up with the Google, the Outlooks, the iClouds. So we're really going to be linking up with externals to sync these together so that what you put here will also show up on your external calendars as well that you are currently utilizing. So again, your checklist is a great area to come to make sure you're staying on track and completing all the tasks that you need to work on for this particular transaction. Let's go back to our documents page. There is the ability to bring in additional outside documents into a transaction. So this can be done very easily. So if you want to bring in outside documents, there's some multiple ways to do this. The first way we'll talk about here is just simply clicking on Add Document. So we can browse for a file, and then we can go to my desktop here, find my zipForm demo folder, and say I want to pull in a home inspection report. I'll simply click it, click on Open, and then we'll simply click on OK, and we're going to bring that PDF into my transaction. We can actually take that one step further and click on Add Folder, and we're going to name this folder Pics of Prop, or Pictures of the Property. Once we generate the folder and we open it up, it will be empty, but we can fix that very easily by clicking on Add Document, browse for a file, and we're going to go to my pictures now and bring in the front, the back, and the garage, and we click on OK. So the system allows you to pull in JPEGs, PDFs, Word docs, Excel spreadsheets, or even PNG files to have a secure location for all your documents to be within your transaction. Again, creating the one-stop shop for you to have everything stored. So again, going back to bringing documents in, we simply uploaded off our computer, but if you click on your menu drop-down up here in the left-hand corner, again, you have some options, transaction details and some menu options. And two that we'll talk about here is the ability to email to a transaction. So I can go ahead and plug in an email address, or anytime you see a blue business card, it means you can access the transaction parties or go ahead and access the address book. So maybe we're sending to Dave and Karen. It'll pull their data in for me. I plug in a subject and a message, and I can send this off. Once they receive it, all they need to do is go ahead and simply respond to that email, and those documents will come right back into the transaction for you. You can also email it to yourself, and if you do that, you'll generate a code that you can plug into your subject line and forward documents into this transaction as well. Going back to our menu drop-down, there is the fax cover sheet. So we'll generate a cover sheet for you for this particular transaction. Has barcodes at the top and the bottom, and then we get some directions in where to send it to. We give you the fax number, who you're sending the documents to, and the transaction name that we're replying to. There's your directions, and there's also directions on how to send it as an email attachment as well. So you just simply will scan it and then send it to fax@fax.ziplogix.com is the email address. And again, those documents following the cover sheet would be put right back in the transaction for you. So again, multiple ways to bring documents in. So we're definitely going to meet, the situation that you may encounter within your transaction. Printing is another option that you have. So you can go ahead and choose documents to print out of the application. You can even choose to print different pages of this document if you want to. So, this is another way to get documents out of the application by simply clicking on print and then choosing the documents for even pages you want to print. Those will be over here on the right-hand side of the documents that you've selected. You can drag and drop them in any order that you like. So you simply just drag and drop them, and the system will reorganize them for you. And then when you print them, it will print in that particular order that you've set. There's also the ability to email or fax out of the application. So you'll see you have the email function or the fax functionality. You can choose, again, your business card or access your contacts. So here we'll select Dave, we'll select Karen, and we can plug in a subject. You can copy yourself to know that this went out, and then you choose your documents of what you're sending out to your client. And then down here below, again, you'll see that there is the ability to attach a fax cover sheet. So you can include this cover sheet once it's going out. So you go over here and click on attach, and then once they receive the email, those documents will be followed by a cover sheet in which they can use to send documents back into the transaction for you. And as we know, as much as we love to be, sending everything out through an e-sign or a digital signature solution, we are definitely going to meet the needs and the situation that you're going to come across in the transactions that you work on. So everyone's going to have a different need, and we're definitely here to make sure that you remain on track and paperless on your end. So again, choosing email or fax, either way, you can include that cover sheet. While we're on the topic of working and getting the transaction documents out or working with a party, I do want to take a second here to talk about a feature in zipForm that a lot of agents don't even know was in the application. And up here in the right-hand corner, there is a feature called Zip Consult. Okay, so it's this green icon in the right-hand corner. This is free, included with all of our accounts. And what it is, it's an online meeting service. So what I can do here is plug in the first name and the last name and an email address and then add them as a meeting participant. Or again, I have this address book. And I can, again, see that I can access my contacts, so Dave and then Karen. I can plug them in as participants, and we can meet now. And again, what this is exactly what we're doing today. We're online, you're interactive, you're asking questions. You can have the same experience with your client without having to drive across town to meet them. They can do this from the comfort of their home. So then you can go into zipForm after you get your meeting started. You can open up the residential contract, and you can go over the contract terms, what this means, what that means, where they're going to sign, and you can really explain items to them. And then when you're ready to set up the document for signatures, you can actually go ahead and share your screen, show them how you're going to be setting it up, where they're going to be signing, and even show them how you're going to sign if you're the first signer in the signing. So again, it's a very interactive experience included with all of our accounts. I encourage you to utilize that because it's going to help keep that very interactive experience but not have to worry about driving across town to meet them. But you're not limited to what's in zipForm. You can go ahead and pull, show them data off your computer, anything, items off the MLS, maybe your company website. So you can go ahead and share that information with them as well if you want to show them some properties that you like to offer to them, and they can take a look at it and ask you questions. While we're on this screen, the form itself, we'll talk about some form filling functionalities. Not going to go into too much detail, but I do want to point out some features that are newer. One of the items here that we have is our fast fill functionality. So you'll notice here if we click on fast fill, it will bullet point the information that was on that contract and simply just asking the question. So seller 1, seller 2, and just you going through and tabbing through, answer the questions very quickly. After you've done, all you have to do is click on fast fill, and it will convert that document back into its original state. We also have the ability to attach a photo. So if we're on the amendment, and this is how we can go ahead and apply a clause, So if you click in a field here, you're going to notice that there's a gray pencil. And if you click on the gray pencil, it's going to allow you to see that we have a clause book. And I can access my clauses. So I can go ahead and insert a clause into my transaction, so my legal verbiage that I'm going to utilize. And let's just say this clause has something to do with a picture that we need to attach to this amendment. And we're going to click on Attach Photo. And we're going to browse for a photo again. Maybe it has to do with the back of the house. We'll simply click on OK. And you can drag and drop this item wherever you want on the amendment. So now, when this amendment goes out, either printing, faxing, or through the e-sign solution, you're going to see that this photo will be coming along with it. So here's your amendment, and there's the photo. So the photo, again, is going to come with this document no matter where it goes. So now they're tied together, they're really just essentially one document now. So that's how you attach a photo to an amendment or to the contract if you need to attach some photo to the document itself. Okay, going back. Now we'll talk about completing this task. So since we've been receiving notifications via email to say we need to get the signed approval letter completed, how are we going to get this document in? And we did talk about multiple ways to bring documents in, email, faxing, or simply uploading off your computer. What we have in the zipForm application as well is called Collaborate. And when you click on Collaborate, this allows you to invite people into your transaction. So they become fully involved. And what we're going to do is click on Add Person. And again, you'll see we have our transaction parties, but what we're going to do is click on the address book. And we're going to bring a contact in. And the person that I'm looking for is Mr. Mark Lender. Okay, so he's a lender that we do a lot of business with, and we're going to invite Mark into this transaction. And what are we going to allow Mark to do? Can Mark look at the contracts right now? Do I want to share some outside documents? If I'm sharing documents with Mark, can he edit the form? So would he be able to make changes to these ZFX files? Can I allow him to view the history of this transaction? But really what I want Mark to do is definitely add files. And at this point in time, I don't think I'm going to share any transactions with Mark. I'm really just going to invite Mark to bring files into this transaction. So what we'll do now is click on Send, and we're going to plug in an email message. And we're going to say, "Hi, Mark, please upload the pre-approval. Thank you." So we're sending a message to Mark, and we're going to click on Send now. And Mark's going to receive an email. So we'll go ahead and give it a second for the email to come on over to me, and I'll show you what that email looks like. So here's the email that Mark will receive. It's coming from an email address that Mark will recognize. It's not coming from a do not reply, and so you're going to be able to see that it's coming from the agent themselves. And there's a little message that we've customized for you, and he's saying, "Hi, Mark, please upload the pre-approval letter." So he's very aware of what he's being asked to do. So what Mark can do at this point in time is click on Start Collaborating Now. And what it's going to do is bring him to a login screen for zipForm Plus, and it's taking him to a collaborator login screen. And if Mark already has an account, meaning he's joined transactions in the past, he can plug in a username and a password, and he can simply log in. If he's a new user, he can create a new free account and join multiple transactions using the account that he would create. Mark is definitely a person that we've done business with in the past, so he already has an account with us, so he can already just simply plug in his username, which would be mlender123, and we can go ahead and plug in the password as well. If you're a current zipForm user, like all of you are, you could be invited into a transaction and use your credentials to log into a transaction that someone has invited you into. So we're going to simply log in, and it's going to bring us right into the transaction. You'll notice that we have information or contact information about the agent, information about the transaction. If Mark had any questions, he could contact the agent directly or right back in zipForm, so there's an in-app notification center. But the instructions were pretty clear to Mark, so all Mark has to do is click on Add Document. So he is going to search for a file on his computer, and he's going to upload the pre-approval letter. So we're going to select the approval letter, we're going to open this up, and bring that into the transaction. So after we've uploaded the document into the transaction, all we need to do now is simply click on Close, and it's going to bring up a message. And we're going to say, I'm done collaborating, close and send notification. And we're going to say, hi, Mike, the letter is there. Thank you. So he'll simply click on Send, and the email notification will go back to the agent. So here's the notification that you will receive. It's letting you know that Mark has completed editing the transaction, and he's saying, hi, Mike, the letter is there. Thank you. And this does come a do not reply, because all we're simply doing is just notifying you that Mark has completed editing his part of the transaction. So when we go back into zipForm, when we go into our transaction, if we refresh it and we go back into it, you are going to notice that approval letter is now in our transaction. So I can open it up and I can look at the document. This looks like a great pre-approval letter. So what I need to do now is simply drag and drop that document into my placeholder. And now I can go ahead and complete that task. So now that task has been completed, I'm not going to receive a notification anymore. You'll notice now that it's been completed on my checklist, so you can see that it's been checked off. And I can actually click here to look at the document from my checklist as well to make sure, okay, I did complete it. There's the document that goes along with it. So going back to my documents page, we can also check our history to see how the collaboration went. So there is a history report that goes along with all of our transactions, letting you know if there's documents been added. If you sent something out through collaboration, has Mark added the approval letter? I have placed the approval letter in the placeholder. So this is really going off of your risk mitigation tool to really help keep the history for you and kind of tell you what's going on within this transaction, items that you're doing or making changes to. You'll also notice up here in the right-hand corner that this is the in-app notification, and we're going to notify you that Mark Lender has completed editing the transaction. We're going to show some comments in there as well for you, and you could go directly to those documents if you needed to. So we're notifying you, again, multiple ways utilizing zipTMS and the collaboration tool to show you that Mark is done and the documents are there. So the next phase that we're going to go into now is getting this transaction signed. So we worked on the transaction, we got our parties in there and information about the transaction and an approval letter. So the way we're going to send this out for signatures is to simply click on e-sign. And we could give it a name if we want to, so we can name our submission if need be. We're going to select some documents that we're sending out. So we're going to go ahead and select on the residential contract, and we're going to select an amendment, and we're going to bring in an outside document as well to show you that you can bring those in. So those are the documents that we're sending out. They're going to show up on the right-hand side. Then we'll simply click on Next. Then it'll immediately show the transaction party. So these are the people involved in my transaction. So I'm going to be sending this transaction to Dave and Karen, so I can select them off and then click on Done. You'll notice that we have an order selection, so order 1 and then order 2. What that is telling you is that once the transaction is sent out for signatures, buyer 1 will be the first person to receive that email to get into the signing. And then after Dave's completed signing, it will go to Karen. But again, Dave and Karen are husband and wife. So I don't know if it matters on who signs first. If you want them to receive the email at the same time, what you can do is simply click, drag and drop them two together, and now you've created an order of 1 and 1. So this is saying that, okay, now that they'll receive the email to sign at the same time. Dave doesn't have to wait for Karen. Karen does not have to wait for Dave. There's also a CC list. I mean, you can carbon copy anyone on the signing. Lenders, co-op agents, office admins. So when you set them up as a CC, if you're out on the road and you're real busy and you get an email notification on your phone letting you know that, hey, this transaction's been signed, you don't have to worry about trying to get to the documents. The system will send out copies to parties that are involved automatically. So through the CC list. So they will receive a signed, completed package of the documents once the signing's been complete. Again, anytime you see the blue business card, it means you can access the transaction parties and pull people into your CC list this way as well. You can also CC your signers by simply clicking on the checkbox. So that's how you can CC them. And there's two additional features here, the text message authentication and the verify ID. Please note that there are little dollar signs and there is a fee for utilizing these additional features. But these are not required, okay? So this is something that's going to be more case scenario with the client you're working with. Maybe your client is not as comfortable with using a digital signing solution. You can offer them some different options, saying, hey, what if I sent you a text message? Would that, be more comfortable for you with a code? Or verify ID, there'll be a series of questions to get into to say, to ask the person, you are who you say you are. Okay, so those are two different options, but it's not required. It's really going to be case scenario with the signer that you're working with. For time purposes, we are going to remove the Karen out of the signing. And we're just going to be working with Dave here today. So after we have our signer, we're going to click on Next. So we can notice the one thing you can be aware of that we do the pre-taggings for you. So if we scroll down, you'll notice that the signature fields are already set up for our signer. So anywhere the signer needs to sign, we've already set those boxes up for you. Okay, so it's very quick and easy for you to just go through and verify all the signatures and initial and date boxes are there. You'll see that you're working with your signer. These are all the initial and signature fields on the left-hand side for your signer for this document. There's also the ability here to switch between your documents. So here's the amendment. So say we need to drag an initial box over for this clause. We can drag and drop it here. And we could simply resize if need be. So there's our signature field. And this document's also been pre-tagged with the signature option as well. The only document you will need to make sure you tag are any documents that come in from the outside. So here we have our home inspection report. If I scroll down, there is a signature and date field that we do need to tag because this was a PDF brought in from the outside. So we're just going to simply drag and drop on that field and then put our date field over there as well. So now this document's tagged as well, so all of our documents are tagged with the signatures. We added an initial box in our amendment, and we tagged our signatures for our home inspection report as well. So after you've verified all the signatures and you check your documents, all you need to do now is simply click on Send. And it's going to send a message out, so your invitation off to Dave, my buyer. So what you're brought to here is a submission review, so it's letting us know who we sent it to, if they still need to register and there's still actions required on this transaction. And these are the documents that we sent them out to. Here's the email that will be received, so we're going to simply close out now and go back to our transaction and go through a signing. So here's the email that is received by Dave. So Dave will just simply click here to access his signing. And it's going to bring them to a screen where if they're a previous signer, it'll say welcome back. If they're a new signer, it'll say welcome. Each signer does need to accept to the e-sign consent. And I'm going to show you what a new signer will receive after they click on Next. So upon clicking on Next, they're going to be brought to a screen where they select their signing pin. So give a second here while it loads. So it'll be brought to an area area where we select our signing password. So we're going to plug in a signing pin, and this is built in for security purposes, so it really covers you on security issues. And you're going to see here in a second, after we complete the signing, a detailed white paper report. You can choose the signature font down here below, so I can choose any one of these signature styles. I can also even go ahead and choose to draw my own signature if I like to as well. So on my computer, I can go ahead and try to draw one of my own if need be. The nice thing about digital ink is that your signature process is going to be the same on any device that you use. So if it's on a phone, a tablet, or a computer, the experience is going to be the same. So they can either choose a predetermined, or if they're on their phone or tablet, it'd be a little easier to draw their own signature if need be. So after they choose their signature style or chosen to draw their own, all they need to do is go ahead and click on to view sign. It's going to bring them to an option where they have the ability to let me review, which is going to allow them to just scroll at their own pace. Or they can simply click on Go. And with the Go option, it's going to walk them through the signing. So they're going to see if we click here to initial. And you can see that the progress bar is going to increase as we move along the signing to give us an idea on how far we are. So click here to initial, click here to initial. And we're just simply walking through and doing this very quickly. Initial, sign, as you can see, we're moving along, and it's walking me through the signing. After they completed signing, it's going to say we're finished signing, so a big box will go ahead and appear. They can either go ahead and stay here and continue to review their documents, or they can simply click on Finish. We're going to process these documents for you. And then we can simply go ahead and review these documents. So as the client, I can scroll down, I can see where the initials are, I can download these documents for my own review, I can go ahead and print these documents. If I'm done, all I need to do is go ahead and simply click on Quit, and we're going to exit the e-sign solution. So I'm done as a signer. You as the agent are going to receive emails back to you notifying you that the transaction's been completed. So you will receive an email with the signed documents. So it'll say hello and here are your attached signed documents. So you'll receive an email. You will also receive an in-app notification telling you that the new documents have been signed for 586 Houston Drive. So if I'm in zipForm and I'm working on another transaction, I get a little notification and go directly to those documents and look at those signed documents right in zipForm. So I can open it up. I can review the documents and see all the signatures. These documents look great. If I need to send it out via email, I can. If I need to send it through collaboration, I can. So I can quickly add and remove documents to collaboration so the person on the other end can see the documents very quickly by simply just logging into their account. You also will receive a zipLogix digital ink audit trail. So this is a very detailed report of the history of the transaction. So it'll tell you exactly when it started, who the signers were, the IP addresses, and all the information about the transaction. So this is a very detailed report of the whole entire process of what happened during that signing. Now that we have some signed documents back in our transaction, if we go back to our checklist, and if you remember from the beginning, we set up a checklist to remind us to have the closing documents or signed documents applied to or turned in. So if I want to attach these documents to this checklist, what I can do here is click on the plus sign, and I can select an existing document. I will see all the documents involved in my transaction, and then there's also a folder for digital ink signatures, so that I know I sent out the signed contract. I can click on it, click on OK, and it'll attach that document to my checklist, and I can complete it. We can do the same thing for the amendment, so we'll click here, and we'll select an existing document, and we'll click on the amendment. and complete that one as well. So this way I know that I've completed the task, and now I've attached the document to that task so I can see it. I can make sure this is the correct document, and I'm really, again, keeping myself organized by by utilizing zipTMS with applying the signed documents to my checklist. And again, you'll be able to check your history to see how the signing went along. So I can check a status here. So if I need to see exactly where the transaction is, I can see if it's been sent out, if it's been completed, or go into Digital Link by clicking on the check status and look at the review this way as well. So I can see, if my party has registered, if they authenticated, and if they completed the documents as well. If you are curious to looking at multiple tasks for multiple transactions, zipTMS offers you this task tab. So after you start establishing transactions and checklists are being applied, you can actually go ahead and look at all your tasks for all your transactions. And coming here, the first way that it's broken out is by the week. So you're going to see your tasks for a particular week that we're on, the 31st through February 6th. So I can see exactly what we're working on. I can also look at it from a calendar view to see all my transactions for this particular week. I can go ahead and click on the month and look at what we're working on for the entire month for all my transactions. I can see all my urgent tasks, so anything that's past due or coming up to be due. So this is really your one-stop shop to come to view all your tasks for all your transactions. So to help keep you on track, it's a very good way to multitask. So back on the list view, if you see you've completed tasks, like here we have our look for a transaction. We're going to look up 586 Houston. So it'll pull up all my tasks for 586, so I can search for a particular task based on a particular transaction. I can see we have a signed sales agreement. It's been completed. I can click on it just to make sure, again, from this area that this is the correct document that I want to have attached to this transaction. So I can scroll down and make sure it's all the right information. If I want to go directly into my transaction from this page, all I would need to do is click on the transaction name, and it pulls me right into that transaction very easily. There's also a contacts tab. This is where you can actually upload your own contacts, so you can import an entire list. And again, while we work with the third parties on syncing, we will be able to sync contacts as well. Okay, but currently right now you can import your contacts in the zipForm and then utilize them for writing transactions, inviting them into a transaction, or sending emails. So it's a really good area to have your parties involved, or just come here to look for a particular contact if need be. If you need additional training, I'm going to show you where you can access that. So you have the ability up here to click on, we'll go to zipform.com. And then under support, there's support FAQs. So you'll see here we have zipForm Plus. There's also a zipTMS section as well. You can see all the different FAQs that we have. So if you want to open one up, you can click on it and we'll give you some screenshots and instructions on how to use that particular item. There's also how-to videos. We have our own YouTube page if need be. So if you click here, it'll take you to a YouTube channel. And if you want to click on our channel name, all you have to do is click right here, and it'll take you right to our channel. You can see all the zipForm Plus training videos, the digital link, mobile web trainings, and an introduction. We will be sending you a copy of the webinar that we've done today. So you will receive that in a follow-up after the webinar has been completed, so be aware of that. And that will be something that the Texas Association of Realtors will be posting on their YouTube channel of their own. At this point in time, if you'd like to hang around, we are going to cover some of the broker functionalities for the next 10-15 minutes. So if you'd like to stick around for those broker functions, a brokerage account is required for that, but I do want to show some of the broker functionalities as well. So more than welcome to hang around if you like, but at this point in time, we're going to kind of transition into that part. On the brokerage selection, when you're working with templates, one of the major differences is that you're going to have the ability to make a template global. And that means that a template would be available to everyone in the entire company. Okay, so if you have a brokerage account and you can manage your agents, you can actually automatically apply a template to every transaction that gets created within your company, either by purchase residential. If you have multiple offices, you can go ahead and apply a template to any office that those agents are a part of. So again, it would be more of a unique situation. So only those agents within that office would have access to this template. And again, that goes off of being a broker function, being able to choose global and office templates. On the transaction page, when you come in as an administrator, you'll see that you have your transactions. If you want to look for an agent's transaction, you can select an office or a user. And I can choose any one of my agents underneath my company account. Or I can go ahead and select the corporate location and look for all the transactions that are underneath my company. So I can look for all my transactions. If I want to sort them out by either the active or the closed transactions, I can. I can also even search for an agent's name. So say I want to look for Reggie White's transactions. I can look for Reggie White's transaction. So this is also a broker functionality. If I want to go into that transaction, I can simply click on it. I can look at all their tasks. I can look at their documents. I can look at their checklist to see if how they're moving along on their own tasks. I can go to their history tab as well. And I can actually even plug in my own notes if I want to. So I can plug in notes that I came in here, I looked at something, I made a change, so I can let the agent know that I did see something within its own history section as well. From the task section, there is the ability to look for the entire company's tasks by selecting office or user. And we can select any one of the agents or go ahead and select the entire corporate location as well and look at all the tasks for the entire month. I can see the urgent tasks for my agents, things that are either past due or overdue, and I can look to see who owns the transaction and reach out to them and ask them, hey, what's going on? Is there something that we need to take a look at? So you can be able to help facilitate with the agent to help move the transaction along if something is being held up. Okay, but as the brokerage administrator, you can oversee and view all the agent's transactions. There's also the ability for a broker admin to import contacts and have brokerage-wide contacts available to the entire company. Okay, so if I want to bring in contacts maybe for my agents to utilize, I can import contacts like lenders, title companies, appraisers. So that way the agents within my company can have access to those contacts. I can also break it down by the office. Maybe there's particular office contacts I want only those agents to have access to. So you as the broker admin can import contacts for your agents to have access to only for their particular office. So a lot of those broker functionalities, you can, really just giving you simple oversight. On the office, you have an administration tab as a broker as well. So on your administration tab, you have an office list. So this allows you to plug in all your offices that your agents could be a part of. You can also go ahead and have your agent list, and you can see all of your agents that are in your company. So anyone who's in red would be a brokerage administrator. So that would allow that person has full control over the company account. Anyone who is in blue would be a location admin. Only those administrators would be able to have access to the agents that are in their office. And then you have agents which are in green, so they work on only their particular items. If you click on a drop-down, there is the ability to edit. And you can set user permissions. So what are you allowing the agent to do? Do you want them to be able to delete transactions or not be able to delete transactions? That is an option you can choose as a brokerage. And it can be broken down in different ways, either at the entire company level, saying no one can delete anything or anything out of the transactions or in the application if you're under my company. You can break it down by the office, and obviously you can do it by agent as well. Either they can or cannot delete. You also have the ability to create transaction coordinators within your company. If you create a transaction coordinator, who are they going to oversee? Is it a particular office? Is it an entire company? Or is it just particular agents? Those would be the only two agents that Reggie White could oversee. So you have, again, full control over what options you're going to choose for your agents, what they can see. You can force templates upon them, so that way when the brokerage is, transactions are being created underneath the company, a template will automatically be applied. But again, this covers our webinar today for zipForm Plus, zipTMS. I do hope that you learn a lot today and you'll take away and start utilizing a lot of these great benefits to make your transaction easier, more efficient, and utilizing all the new transaction management features with the checklist, the calendars, and the notifications as well. If the Texas Association of Realtors would like to put any closing comments, you're more than welcome to say anything that you like at this point in time. But again, thank everyone for their time today.
Yeah, Michael, this is Travis Kessler. Thank you for facilitating today's webinar. Great job. For all on the conference call, the webinar still, please take note of what Michael said about the resources that are available following, the videos, the links, great resources for what you can look forward to. As you conclude and get off this webinar, there'll be a pop-up message on the survey. If you would please take advantage of that and give us some feedback, we would truly appreciate it. Thank you for joining the call today.
Thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful rest of your day.